This morning, I encountered a scene online that stopped me cold. The Chinese embassy had posted one of those official diplomatic statements, typical during tense international moments. What wasn't typical, or perhaps all too typical, were the comments flooding beneath. Primarily from Americans, these comments weren't measured responses or thoughtful reflections, but rather aggressive, mocking displays of chest-thumping nationalism. Statements like, "We'll beat the Chinese," or "They should know better than to mess with us," littered the thread, coupled with the ominous refrain of how different things would be now that Trump is back. The lack of emotional intelligence represented by the American populace in this thread was staggering.
Hello and welcome to The Psychology of Us with Professor RJ Starr, where we explore the mind's influence on life, relationships, and society. RJ Starr is an existential psychologist, professor, and author dedicated to exploring the core challenges of human existence, how we find meaning, embrace responsibility, and navigate life's challenges. Known for a thought-provoking yet accessible approach, RJ inspires listeners to cultivate self-awareness, emotional intelligence, authenticity, and purpose. This podcast is designed for all psychology enthusiasts, practitioners, students, and anyone curious about why we think, feel, and behave the way we do. Each episode unpacks theories, explores complex questions, and offers insights that deepen understanding of the human experience. So settle in, stay curious, and discover the psychology of us.
The lack of emotional intelligence represented by the American populace in this thread was staggering. What struck me most wasn't the political rhetoric itself, but the psychology underlying it. As a student and professor of psychology, I couldn't help but recognize this as emotional unintelligence played out on a public stage. Emotional unintelligence manifests clearly in the public sphere, when we abandon dialogue in favor of tribal confrontation. We've collectively shifted from meaningful communication to performance, performing outrage, performing loyalty, performing victory. This transformation reduces complex geopolitical issues to simplistic binaries, winners and losers, us versus them, as though it were some sort of childhood American football game. But let's take this deeper. Emotional intelligence involves recognizing our emotions, managing responses constructively, empathizing with others, and navigating relationships thoughtfully. Conversely, emotional unintelligence reveals itself through impulsivity, threats, reactionary behavior, pathological "I will beat you up" narratives, and an inability to engage empathetically with differing viewpoints. Understanding emotional intelligence is crucial because it affects not only our individual interactions, but also the broader dynamics of society. Emotional intelligence fosters connection, cooperation, and constructive dialogue. Conversely, emotional unintelligence breeds division, misunderstanding, and conflict. In an era marked by rapid communication and global interconnectedness, developing emotional intelligence is not merely beneficial, it's essential for a healthy, resilient society. To better understand emotional unintelligence, we must examine its psychological foundations. One significant element is identity defense, a psychological phenomenon occurring when individuals or groups perceive a threat to their social or collective identity. When identity defense is triggered, rather than engaging in reflective consideration, individuals respond with aggression and defensiveness. Social psychology clearly documents this behavior. Feeling threatened, people often reinforce their identity by dehumanizing or belittling those perceived as adversaries. Emotional contagion further exacerbates emotional unintelligence in public discourse. This is the phenomenon where emotions, particularly strong emotions like anger, fear, or outrage, spread rapidly through social networks. Online environments characterized by anonymity and a lack of immediate accountability amplify emotional contagion. A single, aggressive comment can ignite a firestorm of similar responses, rapidly escalating into collective hostility, as clearly demonstrated in the embassy post comments. Another fundamental factor underlying public emotional unintelligence is emotional regulation, or, more accurately, the widespread lack thereof. Emotional regulation refers to the ability to manage and respond to emotional experiences in a healthy and adaptive way. When individuals lack this ability, they default to reactive, impulsive responses, often manifesting as fight or flight behaviors. In public forums, this often translates into aggressive confrontations or withdrawal into insulated echo chambers, preventing meaningful engagement and exacerbating polarization. By recognizing these psychological underpinnings, identity defense, emotional contagion, and emotional dysregulation, we gain valuable insights into the mechanisms driving emotionally unintelligent behaviors. These insights are essential for developing strategies aimed at cultivating emotional intelligence within ourselves and our communities. Emotional unintelligence doesn't develop spontaneously. It is deeply rooted in cultural values and socialization processes. In American culture specifically, there's a long-standing emphasis on competition, individual achievement, and success, defined through winning. From childhood, Americans are immersed in a culture that prizes competition, academic contests, sports rivalries, standardized tests, college admissions battles, and corporate ladders. This competitive ethos cultivates a mindset where relationships and interactions are viewed primarily as zero-sum games. Rather than emphasizing mutual understanding and cooperation, societal success is often measured by one's ability to outperform others. Such an outlook inherently fosters emotional unintelligence because it leaves minimal space for empathy, emotional reflection, or collaborative problem-solving. When everything is reduced to a competition, nuance and emotional maturity become liabilities rather than assets. Educational systems significantly contribute to this cultural phenomenon. From early education, children are taught to prioritize grades, achievements, and accolades over emotional growth, empathy, and relational skills. Schools typically reward individual accomplishments rather than collaborative achievements, implicitly teaching students to see peers as competitors rather than potential allies. Over time, this conditioning impairs the ability to handle conflict constructively, empathize with others, or appreciate diverse perspectives. Furthermore, popular media reinforces the value of winning at all costs. Movies, television shows, and video games often glorify assertive aggression, domination, and triumph over collaboration, understanding, or peaceful resolution. Media narratives rarely depict emotional vulnerability positively. Instead, vulnerability is frequently portrayed as weakness. Consequently, cultural attitudes reinforce behaviors that emphasize dominance and control, rather than emotional openness or understanding. This culturally embedded pattern of prioritizing winning and competition shapes not just individual personalities, but also broader societal interactions. Public discourse becomes characterized by combative, rather than cooperative dialogue, contributing significantly to societal polarization and collective emotional dysregulation. By recognizing these deep-seated cultural roots, we become better equipped to address and transform the emotional unintelligence prevalent in public and private life, creating shifts within education systems, challenging competitive cultural norms, and fostering media that values emotional maturity and relational skills are essential steps toward cultivating a more emotionally intelligent society. Emotionally intelligent public behavior represents a fundamental shift from confrontation and competition toward understanding and constructive engagement. At its core, emotional intelligence involves self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and skilled social interaction. When translated into public behavior, these principles provide a framework for more thoughtful, humane, and productive interactions. First and foremost, emotionally intelligent behavior emphasizes embracing complexity and ambiguity rather than retreating into simplistic binaries. People skilled in emotional intelligence recognize that most significant issues are rarely clear-cut. Instead, they comfortably engage with the gray areas, acknowledging that multiple perspectives can hold truths simultaneously. They resist the urge to oversimplify arguments or reduce them to slogans and cliches. Instead, they demonstrate a willingness to say openly, "This issue is complicated, and I'm still learning," or I don't fully understand, but I'd like to. Leaders who model emotional intelligence profoundly influence public behavior. Emotionally intelligent leaders set a tone of empathy, thoughtfulness, and respect. Rather than exploiting fears or tensions for political gain, these leaders acknowledge emotional realities without inflaming them. They use emotionally intelligent communication, acknowledging the feelings underlying conflicts and validating concerns, even while advocating for principled or pragmatic solutions. Media outlets can similarly embody emotional intelligence by choosing responsible and thoughtful reporting over sensationalism. When media platforms focus on depth rather than provocation, they encourage audiences to engage critically and empathetically. Such responsible media practices reward and reinforce nuanced discussions, providing a valuable counterbalance to the emotional reactivity often promoted through sensational headlines or polarizing coverage. Practically speaking, emotionally intelligent interactions in public discourse often involve active listening, sincere curiosity, and measured responses. For instance, when faced with inflammatory statements, emotionally intelligent individuals ask clarifying questions rather than firing back with aggressive retorts. They validate emotions even if they disagree with conclusions, recognizing that emotional validation doesn't equate to agreement. It signals respect and builds trust, allowing for more productive discussions. Emotionally intelligent public behavior also includes self-awareness about personal emotional triggers. Individuals who recognize their triggers can deliberately pause and regulate their emotions before responding publicly. For instance, if someone notices their anger or frustration rising during a heated online exchange, they practice stepping back, reflecting privately, and responding thoughtfully rather than impulsively.
Furthermore, emotionally intelligent interactions prioritize dialogue over dominance. The goal shifts from winning to mutual understanding or constructive compromise. Even intense disagreements can occur without insults, personal attacks, or demonization. Instead, conversations become opportunities for learning, growth, and connection.
Promoting these emotionally intelligent behaviors collectively has substantial benefits. Emotionally intelligent public discourse strengthens community resilience, fosters trust and social cohesion, and equips societies to handle conflicts constructively. It transforms public conversations from divisive battles into meaningful exchanges, capable of generating innovative solutions to shared problems. By consciously modeling emotional intelligence through leadership, media, educational institutions, and personal practice, we cultivate environments where empathy and understanding flourish. In turn, these environments become fertile ground for healthier societal relationships, constructive conflict resolution, and collaborative innovation. The cultivation of emotional intelligence is not merely beneficial. It is an urgent necessity for building resilient, cohesive societies capable of navigating the complexities of the modern world. Our collective emotional maturity, or lack thereof, influences everything from interpersonal relationships and community cohesion to international diplomacy and global stability. Societies that prioritize emotional intelligence demonstrate higher resilience. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, adapt well in the face of adversity, and maintain a constructive trajectory despite challenges. Emotionally intelligent societies foster resilience by effectively managing internal conflicts, responding constructively to external crises, and prioritizing mutual understanding and cooperation. To develop emotional intelligence, practical tools and techniques can be widely adopted. Mindfulness is a foundational practice that promotes emotional awareness and regulation. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment non-judgmentally, enabling individuals to observe their emotional states without immediate reaction. Over time, mindfulness strengthens emotional regulation, reduces impulsive responses, and enhances empathy by helping individuals become more attuned to their emotions and those of others. Regular self-reflection complements mindfulness by deepening emotional self-awareness. By reflecting on our emotional experiences and reactions, we gain valuable insights into our emotional triggers and habitual responses. Reflective practices, such as journaling or guided self-inquiry, encourage individuals to understand their emotional landscapes better, facilitating healthier emotional expression and communication. Educational institutions have a pivotal role in nurturing emotional intelligence. Schools should integrate emotional education systematically, teaching students emotional literacy, conflict resolution, empathy, and collaborative problem-solving, alongside traditional academic subjects. Curriculum enhancements might include classes explicitly focused on emotional intelligence, social-emotional learning programs, and workshops teaching practical emotional skills. Moreover, educators themselves must model emotionally intelligent behaviors. Teachers, mentors, and administrators profoundly influence students through their interactions and attitudes. Emotionally intelligent educators not only teach emotional skills explicitly, but also embody these principles in daily interactions, demonstrating empathy, constructive conflict management, and self-regulation.
On a broader societal level, fostering emotional intelligence requires addressing cultural attitudes that undervalue emotional skills. Public awareness campaigns, media initiatives, and community programs can help shift societal values, promoting empathy, understanding, and emotional maturity as strengths rather than weaknesses. Public dialogues, media representations, and influential role models demonstrating emotional intelligence significantly influence collective cultural norms and attitudes.
The long-term implications of developing emotional intelligence across society are substantial. Emotionally intelligent societies are better equipped to handle internal divisions constructively. They approach global conflicts with collaborative problem-solving rather than hostility. Such societies build stronger social bonds, foster community cohesion, and support individual and collective well-being. When crises arise, economic downturns, natural disasters, or geopolitical tensions, emotionally intelligent communities respond effectively and cooperatively rather than fracturing under pressure. Finally, cultivating emotional intelligence requires collective commitment and individual responsibility. Each person contributes to society's emotional climate through daily interactions and choices. By choosing empathy over hostility, curiosity over confrontation, and reflection over reactivity, individuals collectively shape a more emotionally intelligent and resilient society. As we navigate increasingly complex global challenges, emotional intelligence provides the necessary framework for sustaining cooperative, peaceful, and thriving communities. Developing emotional intelligence isn't merely desirable, it's indispensable for a healthy, resilient, and humane future. This is where we decide who we are.
Not in the heat of a headline or the fury of a comment thread, but in the quiet space just before we respond, when we choose whether to deepen the division or disrupt it. Emotional intelligence is not a buzzword, it's a demand to grow up, to stop performing outrage and start practicing humanity, to stop needing an enemy in order to feel strong. If we continue mistaking cruelty for conviction, volume for truth, and mockery for meaning, we are not just participating in decline, we are accelerating it. And no amount of flags, slogans, or victories will protect us from the rot that begins when a people lose the capacity to feel, to reflect, to care. So start there. Care. About how you speak. About what you reward. About the people you don't understand. About the future you are actively shaping with every word, every post, every silence.
You don't need a title to lead. You don't need a platform to influence. You just need to stop waiting for the world to change and start living like your emotional integrity matters, because it does. More than you've been told. This is the work. It is inconvenient. It is uncomfortable. And it is absolutely necessary. Because emotional intelligence isn't how we feel better. It's how we get better.
And God knows we have work to do.
That wraps up this episode of The Psychology of Us with Professor RJ Starr.
Each conversation is a step toward greater understanding of ourselves, each other, and the forces that shape human behavior. Listeners are invited to continue the conversation by sharing their thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions at Prof. RJ Starr at Outlook.com. Every message helps shape future episodes, ensuring the discussions remain relevant, thought-provoking, and meaningful. For those who find value in these explorations, subscribing and leaving a review is a great way to support the podcast and bring these insights to a wider audience. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and keep exploring the psychology of us.